Everybody, I am pleased to introduce you to our next speaker, Bob DiBenedetto, who is the co-founder of Healthy Planet and creator of its Healthy School Lunch program. Bob hosts the Healthy Planet radio show and has lectured on the powerful impacts of our food and lifestyle choices for over 20 years. Bob co-chairs the Prevention Committee of the Suffolk County Cancer Awareness Task Force and sits on several businesses, community and energy alliances, where he advocates for a bold move away from fossil fuels. Bob has appeared on national television and radio programs and has been quoted in publications such as Newsday and the New York Times. Bob's extensive research into personal growth and meditation has led him to spread his story big picture with worldwide solutions. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Bob DiBenedetto.
Thank you, Karen. What a pleasure to be introduced by Karen Davis, a historical figure. Will be. So thank you so much for being here. And I have to assume that many of you who are listening to me here today are vegetarian or vegan. Now, how many of you does that mean are vegetarian or vegan? Okay, how many of you who had your hands up think it's one of the top 3 decisions you've ever made in your entire life? And I would say that's every single one of them. So for any of you who aren't, take note. Now, becoming vegetarian or vegan is a really important step in one's level of activism. And it's important because it means you have reached the point where you're actually willing to change your lifestyle in order to create the change that you want to see in the world. You may not know this, but there are a lot of people who are activists and advocates for different causes who are not living their lifestyle in alignment with what it would take to create the solution to that. I go to an awful lot of environmental meetings. I'm talking about very good environmentalists, people who do a lot for the world. And you would be surprised at how many of them actually at those meetings are serving meat and dairy products at an environmental meeting. Now, it makes no sense whatsoever. And the more that you know about this issue, the more you know that it makes no sense. It's the equivalent of a climate change activist. It's the equivalent of a climate change activist having incandescent bulbs throughout their house. And this is a side note for all of you. How many of you have incandescent bulbs? Don't put your hands up. I don't want to embarrass anybody. An incandescent bulb is so wasteful. If you have it in your house, unscrew and you go home, throw it in the garbage, and buy some energy-efficient bulbs. You're going to save money and you're going to save the environment. In fact, if everyone were to do that, we could close down 270 coal-fired plants. 270 of them. So, that's step number 1. And also, listen to this fact. 1 incandescent bulb with 100 watts of energy, if you remove that and replace it with a energy-efficient bulb, you can save as much energy as it takes to drive a car, a Prius, from New York to San Francisco. Enormous. So, that's your task. Now, these are big figures, right? But as big as they are, changing 1 light bulb, saving all that energy, people who have taken on a vegan diet are actually creating more of a change in the world. And how many of you know about the global warming and the livestock report from the United Nations? Who doesn't know about that? All right, then you all do. So to briefly summarize, livestock creates 18% of the world's global warming gases, 40% more than all transportation combined. It's huge. And yet again, environmentalists oftentimes are not living that message. They just either don't know or don't think the world is ready for it. The head of the UN for a while didn't even say it. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization's, or rather, the head of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, he didn't say it for a while, but then he says, we have to say it. Please eat less meat. Meat is a very carbon-intensive commodity. And so you're at the point where you're living the message. Great. What's the next step? Becoming an ambassador. You got to become ambassadors. Now, you're already ambassadors, I'm sure. You know, you're at the Thanksgiving dinner and you're saying, ugh, I wouldn't eat that. That's a different kind of ambassador. There are some characteristics that an ambassador has to have to be successful. One is you have to know your topic. You've got to learn the information. Now, I'm going to ask you to become more responsible than you've been thus far and really learn a few facts. Really go out there and be able to spout a few things off. How many of you are pretty well versed in the issues related to vegan diet and the impact on our world and our health? All right, some of you are. That's great. I want to ask you a quiz question. How many children under the age of 5 die every day because they don't have enough to eat?
You see the images.
Any guesses?
Sanctuary videos.
7,000 children under 5 every single day dying without enough food. 24,000 people of all ages dying from hunger and hunger-related diseases. 24,000 people. 870 million people on this planet don't have enough to eat. 3 facts. If you learn those, and then you connect the dots for the people you're talking to, with this information that I'm about to tell you, then you blow their minds and you actually create a possible change in them. What is it? The fact that 3/4 of all of our growing lands are not raising food for people. They are raising feed for animals. 2/3 rather. 2/3 of all of our growing lands are feeding food to animals, not people. Now that's bizarre in and of itself with all these people starving. But what makes it even worse is the fact that 90% or more of what's fed to the animals does not create food. It either creates energy for the animal or pollution that we then have to deal with. Americans are eating a grotesque, and the industrialized world, a grotesque amount of meat. 176 pounds per year. How much is that? Well, over the course of a lifetime, the standard American diet will include, someone will have eaten 10 cows, 34 pigs and other small mammals, over 2,500 turkeys, chickens, and birds, and an uncounted number of fish and aquatic life. In a world where 7,000 children per day die under 5 years old because they don't have enough to eat. So this information is powerful. And that's step 1, learning the information. However, if I bring this information to my nutrition committee, and I know all the facts, and I say, look at all this, and they may be impressed, and they may be touched, but your second role as an ambassador is to bring the right message to the right person. And that's where it takes some sensitivity. Bringing that information to a nutrition committee is not the right way. Bringing that to your church is what you need to do. Bringing it to the nutrition committee, there's other things to say to them. To them you say, hey, did you know that most diseases are preventable? And they say, well, certainly not most cancers. And you say, yes, according to the National Cancer Institute, 75% of all cancers are preventable via diet and lifestyle modification. And then you tell them that the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, the National Academies of Sciences, the American Academy of Pediatrics have all come out together with a unified dietary guideline that says, eat mostly plants, unprocessed plant foods. You put all that together for a nutrition committee, and all of a sudden, you have their ear. Because that's what they're in the business of changing. They are there for the good of the children. But there's one more step, and that's that if I'm a well-meaning person, I go to my school and I go to a PTA meeting and I say, nutrition is important for our kids are obese, and we have all the information here about the number of children who are dying, and 2/3 of the population is overweight or obese, and most diseases are preventable. You might leave there and they might be very impressed, but it won't create long-term change. So your role as ambassadors is to become a part of the machinery. Get involved. You can go to your school. You can become part of the PTA. If you have a church, you can become part of the church. You can become a part of the body that's changing things, and your word will have 10 times, if not more, the impact when you do that. Because you're showing up to the monthly meetings, and all of a sudden you are the change that no doubt will happen. I have coached many, many people who have gone to their schools, who have initially say, I tried, what can I do? Once they get a little coaching, and they hear what I told you today, and they get step-by-step information about how to bring that to their school, all of a sudden, the change is inevitable. It's not a matter of if it will happen, but how quickly it will happen. So if I'm going to speak to climate change people, if I talk to them about nutrition, I'm sure they'll be interested. If I talk to them about world hunger, I'm sure they'll be interested. But if I tell them the facts from the United Nations, and I say, hey, you know what the other two big climate change gases are? They may or may not know. Nitrous oxide and methane. You say, well, nitrous oxide is 296 times more powerful in trapping warmth in the Earth's atmosphere than is carbon dioxide. 296 times more powerful. And 65% of all nitrous oxide comes from raising animals for human consumption. Methane is the other big climate change gas, 23 times more powerful than CO2. Well, that they'll care about. They'll care about the fact that 37% of all methane is the result of raising food for animals, not people. So you are powerful ambassadors. You're already powerful activists in changing your own diet. Now it's time to pick up the pace. The world has changed a lot over the last 20 years because of all the ambassadors and because of people like you. Look, recently we had Bill Clinton saying that he was eating a vegan diet. Bill Clinton working with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Who would have thought? But it's a reality because the truth can't be stopped once the people in power are given the information through the right channels. And we are those channels. But we're at a critical juncture right now where if we don't take action, in addition to millions of people dying of hunger every year, to all the hundreds of millions starving and with not enough food, in addition to the 11 billion animals that are dying just in America to feed our palates, just for a little momentary bit of fun every single day or every single year, 11 billion people, 300 plus animals per second. We are at a juncture where with climate change, if we do not do something now, all of a sudden we can't slow the motion down enough because we put too many gases into the air that are blocking too much of the heat and will persist over the course of the next 100 years. Something needs to be done now. And something, when I say something, I mean something big. It's at this point that everyone's understanding that. Everyone who knows, and by the way, if someone says to you, well, I know about climate change, but there's still a debate going on, just say to them, there is no debate. The science is clear. The people who really know what's going on know that there is a big problem that's facing all of us right now, today. And a big part of the solution to this will reside with what we eat. That's the single thing. We can't turn down the heats in our house all the way. You live in some parts of the world, you still need transportation to get around. I live on Long Island. You need a car to get around. But at every meal I sit down at, I can change what I'm eating. I could choose a burger made from rainforest beef and cattle or chicken or turkey, or I can choose vegetables and a veggie burger and a salad and a taco and a bean burrito. Go to Chipotle and have one of those, a bean burrito and guacamole. Every meal I have the choice, and so do you. And so let's be the change, and let's step it up because it is worthy and needed right now. Thank you so much.